Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another DM's Guild review, my written and video review series. Take a look at the adventures and supplemental material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. With this video, I'll be reviewing the player class supplement, the main character class, designed by Kera Hildebrandt for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. This review has been sponsored by the publisher, and a review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you are interested in a sponsored review, you can reach me via email or Discord or my submission form at roguewatson.com. And if you enjoy the content, consider using my affiliate links for online shopping and supporting me via patreon.com/roguewatson. What is the main character? If you don't know this concept, which I think is called main character syndrome, it's when someone, the entire world revolves around them, right? It's like borderline narcissistic personality disorder, but maybe with like a flair for the dramatic, and particularly in a tabletop role-playing game, which is a collaborative effort with multiple people at the table playing together. If somebody has main character syndrome, it means they are always trying to be the center of attention in every single situation. They think their character's backstory takes precedence over everybody else's. Basically, it's a bad thing to be when it comes to, I mean, in life in general, probably it's a bad thing to have main character syndrome. Again, very close to being just narcissistic. But in a collaborative group RPG, it's annoying at best and game breakingly, like everybody has a bad time at worst. And typically this person doesn't just, you're not thinking about other people basically when you're playing. It's all about you, you're self-absorbed, you are the chosen one, etc., etc. So this character class is a satire. I presume it's a satire. If I'm way off base with this, the designer will hopefully let me know very swiftly after seeing this video, but I believe it's supposed to be a satirical look at creating a character class that would be satisfying for that player, but also kind of reflects the ridiculousness of that player type and just the idea of a main character syndrome who is destined to win. Fate has decreed that they complete all odds and surmount any challenge and objective, and they have basically an overpowered, ridiculous build, but not to where it's like random. It actually makes sense, I think, on how it operates, but it is kind of a joke. It's all one joke. Hopefully we're all in on it. But it is also a legitimate character class as well. So I think that part's kind of fun and cool. With its own subclass, it has 4 subclasses that go along with it. And because that's the only thing that this product is, we can actually do a pretty deep dive into the character class and its 4 subclasses. So right away, we've got a D12 for hit points. Normally, only the Barbarian has that many hit points, but of course, our chosen one, main character, definitely needs to have as many hit points as possible. Surprised we didn't go ahead and get martial weapons and heavy armor, but medium armor and simple weapons. We have spellcasting ability, but we don't actually have spellcasting, at least as a baseline feature, until later we level up and we gain specific spells, and then depending on the backstory, we may gain other specific spells. Basically, the entire character class is about adaptability, if I can pronounce that correctly. They can suddenly come up with a way of, completing anything by switching their skills, and that's done through feats, interestingly enough, which I thought was actually a pretty clever system. So feats switch, which is an awkward trait, granted, is the ability for the main character to switch out their feats basically as a bonus action to any other feat that they need. And the example here is like they've got alert and charger, but they need to make like a deception check to pretend to be somebody else or whatever, so they can literally switch out a feat for the actor feat, and now they just have that feat and gain all the abilities from that. So automatically you can see how this is how you create that ability of a character being like naturally good at everything, or skilled enough, or just has fate going their right direction, instead of it just being like the lucky trait or something where it's like, oh, you can just give yourself advantage or roll a number of dice or whatever. Instead, you can actually select all the feats. So it does require the main character to be very intimately familiar with feats and the feat system, and basically have that entire part of the player's handbook open and flipping through things. I don't know if that was the idea or not. And notice how on this table, you get a crap ton of feats. I think you get more feats than the fighter, who is the most feats heavy character, I think. Somebody might correct me on that, but I think that's like the fighter's whole deal is they get extra feats. You start off with 2 at first level, and then you quickly, every other level or so, gain a new, maybe not quite that quickly, actually. You gain 3 at 3rd level, 4 at 6th level, and then it's not until you get your 5th feat at 12th level. But again, that's just how many you can have at once. You can still swap those feats out a certain amount of times per long rest, essentially, and it starts off with just once, twice, but enough to where you can be pretty damn adaptable to whatever situation you come across. So that's really the big thing the character has. It's all about feats, and people, I mean, I don't know of any table that doesn't. Technically, feats are an optional variant rule in the player's handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, one of those. And I think everybody just kind of assumes feats are just part of 5e because it's everybody likes feats. They do get 2 specific feats that are only for the main character. One of them I love, Info Dump. This should be a baseline bard ability, which is as an action, you can talk about yourself, your backstory, you know, basically do your cool hero monologue moment where the camera zooms in during a quiet moment and you spill your beans. And anybody within 30 feet must make a charisma saving throw, and if they fail, they have to spend their next turn listening to you monologue, the hero version of the villainous monologue, I guess. There are some nitpicky things throughout this book, which I'll get into, that I wish were a little more concrete on the mechanics of how everything works. Granted, everything is ridiculous and overpowered, I get that, but like we still need to define like what does that mean they spend their next turn listening to you? Does that mean they're incapacitated? Does that mean they literally can't move or act? Like you kind of have to be very clear. This is me like doing like rule book shit. Like you got to be very clear about what that means that they spend their next turn listening to you. Assuming, which I don't want to assume when it comes to rules, but that means by using an action, you can force everybody else to make a charisma save, and you've locked everybody down. It's like the ultimate crowd control feature just by talking. I think that's actually really cool and should have been a baseline bard feature. And if not a baseline bard feature, then like one of the subclasses could have been you just like telling a story and enthralling everybody. I think there are spells that are similar, maybe effects that are similar, but I think that's actually pretty great. It's weird that that's a feat that you have to take that gives you that ability, but that's just a neat idea. I wouldn't mind having more feats, by the way. If their whole thing is feats, then go ahead and give me some extra unique ones for this character class. The other 2 big things you get are character flaws and character development. Oh, by the way, and our subclass is called character backstory. We get that at first level, but I'll get into that because the subclasses are at the end. So you get to choose your subclass at first level. At 3rd level, you get your character flaw, which is pretty cares too much, too beautiful, cursed with natural power, good at too many things. Like these are all pretty funny. You know, it's your one weakness. I care too much. And they give you, it's mostly spells from what I can tell. You can cast Healing Spirit, but it's super powerful. You can cast Suggestion, but it's super powerful. Basically, it bypasses immunity to charms that some enemies have, like Fae. Really loves animals. I mean, you can cast Summon Beast. Good at too many things. You can cast Borrowed Knowledge. Reflects the fact that you have very limited specific spell casting. But just casting Suggestion a couple times a day without having to worry about like spell slots or anything is crazy awesome. I would definitely want to be too beautiful. Character development, I don't know if there's a little bit of a typo or error here because normally the ASI is at the for every single character class in 5e, the ASI is every 4 levels, 4th, 8th, 12th, etc. This one, it shows character development at 4th and the ASI at 5th, but then if you go into the text, it shows ASI at 4th and character development also at 4th. So I'm assuming that's just an error that needs to be fixed, and that character development actually comes online at 5th level and then 9th, 13th, and 17th level. Like normal, I believe is how it's supposed to work. Anyway, character development, it just gives you some extra little bits in there. One of them is a limited use wish spell. So like if something goes bad, you just have to like, it's like the Cosmos just making sure you win because you're the chosen one. You can just cast wish once. Or you get a free magic item depending on the level. You can get a wondrous item, uncommon, all the way up to even very rare at 17th level, just a free magic item because, again, you deserve it. You find this magic item and you need it for your thing. You can take an extra racial trait from you discover you've actually got, like, your background. You're like, oh, I'm really a this, or I'm half this, or whatever, or my ancestors are this. Then it's like, oh, and because I've got some Aarakocra blood, I can fly now. Like, that's the kind of bullshit that the main character gets, which is funny. Again, you have to be laughing along with this or you're not going to enjoy this product because the whole point of this is to be satirical while also working in the confines of the rule system. And then 20th level, you gain your capstone ability, which means you get free legendary gear, extra proficiencies, expertise, and you can meet with a god as you need to. All right, that's basically the whole character baked in without the subclasses. So the main thing is the feats, and then you've got those extra little bits here, but it's all about the feats and the feat switching to be able to adapt to anything. So, character backstories, we've got 4 of them. I think they're all very clever ideas, but I think all of them have some kind of flaw in how they operate, which I will get into. So the first one, the Isekai, I don't know if I'm actually pronouncing that correctly, which means you're from a different world. You've appeared in this world. You might be from Earth, for example. I don't know if anybody's played the old Diablo clone Nox. I was a big fan of that back in the day. It came out around the time of Diablo 2, I think, and that had a weird story where you were like just a trailer park, just white trash dude, and you got sucked into like this fantasy world. It was just a very weird, like they don't usually do that kind of story anymore. It's usually where we're all, everybody's in the fantasy world, and you just got, and it was like never, I don't know, it's bizarre. And for some reason I remember that because it was like cutscene, and he's like drinking beer and watching TV or something. He gets sucked into the world of the fantasy, and he doesn't get to take any items with him or anything, and he just becomes one of the fantasy characters. In this case, your big ability from first levels, you do get to take an item with you, which I love the examples. You can pick any wondrous item from the Dungeon Master's Guide, and for example, it says you can retool boots of speed into roller skates or a skateboard. So essentially, I think that's a really neat idea. Reflavor any of those items into something that makes sense that your character would have, so you get to start off with something. This one just didn't really have any kind of special abilities at the beginning that I thought was pretty interesting. Not until 10th level do you get to cast some teleporting powers, which I guess makes sense because you've gained some kind of abilities over the fact that you teleported here. You're not from this world, so like Vortex Warp, Dimension Door, Teleport. Interesting that Banishment or Plane Shift are not part of those. And then 4th Wall Break is pretty bizarre. You can kind of use your ability to peer in and get information, but I kind of have that as a house rule in my campaign where players can roll like knowledge checks and get information anyway. So I actually didn't think this one was just very interesting, and I guess that was the main flaw. Maybe they could have been something to do with teleporting at a lower level or having advantage against like planar creatures. I don't know. Something could have been a little more interesting from that standpoint. The Chosen One, this one has a fabulous ability with plot twist, and you get your own D100 table. It's not 100 entries. There's like 20 here, but they're all really fun, and they give you like new spell casting abilities, or it changes your backstory. It's really funny the way it's like, oh, you're actually a changeling, so you've been a doppelganger this whole time, or your character's actually been dead this whole time, so you're actually a reborn, or an enemy is now an ally, or an ally is now an enemy. It's just really cute the way all the plot twists are kind of baked in there and become like part of the story, even though it could absolutely completely fuck up a DM's game. But if you're playing with the main character class, you gotta kind of assume that's gonna happen. I love this ability. My problem is you don't get it till 14th level, which whenever I'm reviewing and judging character classes, I'm really doubling down on those first 10 levels, because how many campaigns actually make it past like level 12-ish? In fact, a lot of the official 5e campaign books do not make it past level like 11 or 12. So I'm looking at like all the subclasses and really all the class content. Okay, what is there to make me excited about playing a class from 1 to 10? Anything beyond like 10-ish is just nice icing on the cake. That's cool, but who knows if we'll ever actually get up there to play around with those abilities. Like I've been playing 5e for 8 years, 9 years, something like that, and we've only made it to, I think, like 15th level or above like once. I think when one other time, and that was specifically a high level campaign, and then one other time we made it to 15 because I stretched a campaign out and then we stopped it. So that's a bummer. I think it's a great ability, but I would not want to wait. Any other abilities were not very interesting at all, unfortunately. Fate's Guide and the Love of the People. So I love this plot twist ability, but give me that earlier, and then if you want to add more plot twists as we level up, we can do that. Edgy backstory. I love the way this one is written so much. I'm just going to read it to you. Like a crimson eclipse in a grim sky, a main character spawned from the unforgiving loin of darkness stands out in the cheery world everyone else lives in. You'd bleed tears if you still had any left to cry. Most would fall to their knees if they had a single bloody drop of your pain. Your nightmares are an agonizing symphony of dead parents, abandonment, prejudice, and destroyed hometowns. That is fucking fabulous. I love the edgy backstory. And guess what? This one gives you a cool ability right at the beginning. Grim form. You can transform into a shadowy, creepy, supercharged version of yourself. You can do it as a bonus action. You can only do it once between long rests. So it's a pretty big form to make, and you have to do something else. Whether you have to stab yourself, or you gotta call out a name, or I don't know, rub a coin, or you have to do something to like flavorful to create this transformation into this dark version of yourself. You do have to concentrate as if concentrating on a spell, but otherwise I couldn't find a rule about how long this is actually supposed to last. So that might be a little bit of a flaw here. Again, like a little nitpicky about how the different rules works. And even though it's all in satire, I'm still putting my like rule book glasses on going, now wait a minute, how long is this supposed to last? Because I'm picturing my players and the DM asking these questions. And can you cast spells that have concentration if you're already concentrating on the Grim form? I would argue no. The Grim form gives you a bunch of abilities, as you can see. I wish this were a more attractive like sidebar box, or maybe done it like a D table, even though it's not like that. But just having a bullet point list that takes up over half a page is a little bit nasty looking from a formatting viewpoint. But you can take extra cantrip spells. You can gain like the bonus action, cunning action, essentially. You gain resistances, you get advantages on skills, you get flying, climbing, dark vision, like just everything you would want a character to just magically have. And as you level up, in fact, I think you get them like every level, number of attributes equal to your main character level. Yeah, so you gain a new attribute every time you level. My flaw with this one is that Blade of the Shadow is got a fucking gun and nunchucks. My problem with this one is it's the opposite effect, where the cool abilities first and then the other abilities aren't as interesting. Now that's still makes it probably one of the better ones, because I like that we front loaded the cool ability. But what I've preferred is if you give me maybe half of these abilities that I can pick at level 1, and then say, okay, like kind of Warlock Invocations do that, where it's like prerequisites, you have to be this much level. Say like, okay, now that you're getting 6th level, now you can add the speed ones. You can gain flying speed, swimming speed, climbing speed, ability to breathe underwater, that kind of stuff. And then maybe at 10th level, now you gain like the resistances and I don't know, whatever is in here, vehicular proficiency or something. Give it some prerequisite level, so it feels like you're getting stronger, and you can't just take them all at first level and then just start stacking them as you level up, because the other abilities you level up is basically just you being able to maintain the Grim Fort a little bit easier. It gives you additional bonuses for the concentration check, or gives you advantage, or allows you to change your abilities during the long rest. So it's just not nearly as interesting, and I think it could have been balanced a little bit better, but still very, very cool. And then the fourth one is the romantic backstory. You get a lover NPC follower just all to yourself who absolutely adores you. This is not something I see in 5e very often, where they just give you your own personal servant or paramour, I guess, person who is completely devoted to you. You do have stat blocks for them, and you have 4 choices. You can go rugged, mysterious, brainy, or supportive, and of course they are tied to the main character archetypes of fighter, rogue, wizard, and cleric. They are ridiculously powerful, as you can imagine. Actually, I take that back. The fighters feel like they're low-level versions of their characters. They do have some cool abilities like martial advantage, deflect attack. The rogue, of course, has evasion and cunning action. Those are all very helpful abilities. The spellcasters, though, are ridiculously more expensive, where I would take those every chance over the other ones, because they have 3rd level spell slots. They basically start off as 5th level NPC followers. The cleric alone can cast Mass Healing Word, Revivify, Healing Prayer, Lesser Restoration, Cure Wounds, and Healing Word. Why would I take anything other than the supportive type, having a cleric with nothing but super powerful healing spells at my disposal? So you can see where like I can accept this is a hilariously overpowered ability that gives you a follower, but what I have a bigger problem with is like amongst the 4 of them, they're not very well balanced, where I would absolutely I'm still trying to min-max. I would absolutely choose the cleric every damn time for the supportive type, because those abilities are ridiculous. And unfortunately, we don't get any kind of other versions of these stat blocks. That's the only one, which means in the beginning it's very powerful, and then as you level up, they'll become less powerful. Interestingly enough, instead of them becoming more powerful, you get more of them. You get the love triangle at 6th level, which means you take another devoted love interest. And then at 14th level, you have the love square, which you have 3 of the lover stat blocks with you. There should probably be an ability where they like throw themselves in front of you and don't, always take the damage and trying to let you die. But instead, it's just the love never dies at 18th level where it can sacrifice one of your love interests to gain their half of the health for yourself. That's pretty brutal and dark, but I think it actually works. Mechanically, it's pretty simple, just to give you an NPC follower, but amongst it, you can see where I have these little bit of problems with each one of these that could have used a little bit of rebalancing. And it feels weird to complain about the balance for a character class that is not meant to be balanced, but I'm trying to balance it in the context of itself. So hopefully that still makes sense. Let's go over my pros and cons for the main character class. Pro, I actually love the subclasses from a conceptual point of view, even though I have some problems with their balancing and their abilities and when they come online. But I think this pretty much covers all of the different kinds of main characters, and I think it's brilliant the way the designer has created completely different subclass features. Like you can transform into a special ability with edgy, or you get NPC followers with romantic, for example. That's really awesome and showcases the diversity within this one character class. So huge thumbs up to the backstory and all their ideas and concepts. And pro, I absolutely adore all the artwork in here. I know there's been a lot of complaints, and I have certainly seen a ton of AI artwork being used in a shit ton of products lately, which we could argue about that for better or for worse. But this does not appear to be one of them. I believe all of this art is designed by the designer, and they really fit the theme here of the humor, the sketchbook style I really love. I would actually argue I think I would have liked to see the whole product done in this style. It's kind of interesting. Like the designer tried to do both, where they like, oh, let's do this fun little sketchbook thing, which is really cute, and I love the art. But then also we're just gonna make everything else look like kind of a standard supplement product, even though this is like the cover makes it look like, oh, this is all gonna be in this style. And I kind of opened it up and I was like, oh, well, okay, like it's not like garish or jarring, but also it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, this looks like a normal, oh, and then we've got the fun stuff again. Okay. Do you see what I mean? Like, so I don't know, it would have had to do a complete redesign to make it look more in this style, I think, and it would have been a lot more work, but it would have been really, really eye-catching. There's very few designers that can pull that off, and I can't even cite, it's been a while since I reviewed one that had a really different, varied style. They ran with that for the whole book, and it looked great. It can honestly look like a mess sometimes. That's why a lot of folks just choose, and I would too, is just choose kind of the standard formatting. But I don't know. I think it could have been really, really interesting to see it done in this kind of sketchbook notepad cover, and would have really sold that theme even more. And I really like the way the cover page looks as well. Con is kind of just the complaint about the balance in the subclasses, the fact that all of them had kind of some flaw, I think, with them that I had a problem with, even just amongst each other, or I just had little, complaints or adjustments here and there. Nothing that was fatal, but again, this isn't, if you're going to give me a product, yes, it's satirical, but also it tries to be a real character class, then I'm going to judge it as such. I'm going to accept the fact that this is hilariously overpowered, but I'm still going to have little adjustments and complaints here and there, and little bits about the rule stuff too. Needs to be pretty firm. Even if it's a jokey thing, if it's a legit character class, then I can't have any rules questions about how any of the features work. Final verdict: a hilariously powerful satirical class for all of your dreaded main character syndrome players to embrace their ridiculousness. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can watch more reviews and follow our own D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel. You can support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. And am I the main character?